Hey everyone, we are now on episode 5 of Me, Myself and Mental Health, and today I'm going to talk about a few different things, largely forgiveness and relationships. So a big aspect for me on my journey with mental health has been forgiveness, particularly with forgiving myself. It took me a very long time to accept, acknowledge, and understand that I was ill and that I wasn't just a problem person. Um, we've covered enough ground to sort of know my basic history. It definitely was signs when I was a kid, but it elevated when I was around 14, and it didn't get any better until pretty much until I was 30. One big aspect of that was that neither myself or anyone around me openly questioned or acknowledged that I was unwell. I was just a problem person. At school in years 10 and 11, I think my attendance was like 45%. I'd miss class a lot. I would be drunk at school on the occasions that I went. I could cause a fight out of thin air. I was problematic. I think had this happened now, where people have far more access to the information around behaviour, maybe someone would have stepped in and clocked that I wasn't just playing up, and that there was definitely something deeper seated there. I mean, I guess actually the first couple of clues would have been an attempted suicide and self-harming. As I got older and I started holding a bit more value to the relationships I had around me, I started looking closer at my behaviour and the fact that I was definitely unwell, and I didn't want to be. I wanted to find a way to fix it, but the only way to fix it was to fix me, and that's when I started really looking at my relationships with everyone around me, everyone from work to friends to family. And I realized I had some very toxic relationships around me, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to look after myself unless I removed myself and worked out who I was and how I lived away from that environment and some of those people, largely because of a lot of the stuff that had happened. I was always going to be associated with that or that version of me as long as I was around the same people in the same place. So I moved away. And it was really, really soon after I moved away that I started to heal. I think firstly because I was in a space where I was allowed to. The people that I met in my new environment had only met me how they'd met me there and then. They didn't meet me when I was in my darkest patch, when I was grieving, when I was super argumentative, and they met me when I was coming out of that and then saw me calm down more and more and get myself more together. But they didn't meet me at my worst, and they didn't know me at my worst, and it made it a lot easier to become a better version of myself. I started to forgive myself for a lot of the things I'd done, because I really really started looking into mental illness and the symptoms and the side effects and everything else, um, and realized that a lot of my actions, and not all of them, I can't blame every unpleasant action solely on illness, but I recognized a lot of my behavior was linked to illness, and I started forgiving myself because I realized that actually I wasn't an out and out bad person as I'd accused myself of being for so long. In forgiving myself and learning more about myself, that's when I was looking at the people around me and their role. Because my personal belief is, whilst everyone is responsible for their own actions, if you're friends with someone, you also have a responsibility towards them. You know, if your friend is doing something particularly questionable, maybe something completely out of character, surely as a friend you would reach out and show concern, or tell them to stop, or ask them why they're doing it. I know you certainly shouldn't encourage them or make jokes of the things they're doing. And that's something I had a lot. I think, yeah, we were all a lot younger. But when I look back at it, a lot of us we were not towards each other the way friends should be towards each other. One of the first times that I went back to the UK after leaving, it was a real eye-opener as to how I was treated by different people from different aspects of my life. There were people that perhaps I didn't give enough time to when I was back home, that were friends, but I didn't, because I didn't spend all my time with them. I wasn't like, oh, this is one of my super close friends. That were just like, oh, you just seem so much happier. You're really looking after yourself and following, your posts about your mental health, and I'm really impressed, and really glad you've managed to find some happiness. Which was absolutely great to hear, particularly from people that I didn't think would be following anything I was doing. Really, we didn't have that kind of relationship as far as I was aware. And then there's the people that, for all sense and purposes, were your world, and you just get commented on about, oh, you've changed, oh, you're boring now. Like, okay, if me not causing a scene all the time, or crying on nights out, or having to constantly be high or drunk to be around people is boring, then I'll be boring. But if our whole friendship to you was me being that, then obviously we weren't very good friends. And that's something that's continued to evolve the longer I've been away. I'm aware that we're all adults and we're all busy. We're certainly at the age where people have kids and houses and businesses, and I'm busy as well. However, after maybe 3 years away, I started really realizing that every communication I had with the majority of my friends was me reaching out to them and often not really getting much of a response. And at first I was pretty twisted about it. Like, I just felt like no one gave a shit. And then I took a step back and I was like, I don't need to concern myself with this so much. It has been 5 years. I am a completely different person to when I left. I almost have a bit of anxiety when I go back, because I don't associate that time of my life with being a happy time. So I very quickly learned to just accept the fact that actually, as much as I was moving on and getting better, everyone else was moving on too, and that's fine. I think one thing I learned when going through this, when healing myself and when looking at my relationship with other people, is it's so important to make time for yourself, but equally as important to look at how much time you give other people. It's only really been quite recently, as I'm planning my next trip back, that I've kind of just learned I have to just accept that friendships have evolved and changed. I've evolved and changed, so why would everyone else not have been? Why would our relationships not have been? And it's sad when you think that, you know, people who you were really tight with, that you used to spend all your time with, don't or won't have the time to see you. But then you just focus on the people that, when you told me you were coming back, are like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Like, let me know the dates, I'll book it off work, we'll go somewhere, we'll do something 100%. The other people that are going to be watching this video and that will be passing comment or messaging you about it, they're the people to give you time to. Because you don't have a lot of it. The sooner you remember that, the better. Especially when you've lived a lot of your life unhappy, when you've been unwell. You've lost a lot of time. I lost a hell of a lot of time. My 20s may as well not have existed. I pretty much remember them as being a hectic dark cloud of chaos. And in my 30s, I've started living my life the way I should have been years ago. And I have the most amazing friends now. Like, they're just all awesome, and they all know enough of my past that they all don't hold any of it against me. They don't bring it up because it's the past, it's just that.